Question is that the bill be now read a second time. Dr. Chia.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand in support of the bill, and my views are essentially unchanged from those I expressed during the debate on CareShield Life in this very House in July last year. And I thank the Ministry for accepting most of the recommendations that were put forward by the GPC for Health in our paper on enhancing ElderShield, which was presented to Minister Gan Kim Yong in January last year. I am also reassured by some of the additional provisions in this bill, such as Elder Fund, which seek to strengthen the framework of long-term care in Singapore. Because although CareShield Life aims for universal coverage, there are necessarily some situations where it is not scoped to address. But now that we are here at the business end of things, I have several clarifications for the Minister. CareShield Life will be mandatory for all Singaporeans born in 1980 and later, but will be optional for those who are born earlier. Now, I understand that enrolling older Singaporeans into the expanded benefits schedule of CareShield Life would be costly, but would the government consider further measures to financially support older cohorts to encourage them to either enroll or switch over from ElderShield to CareShield Life? And how will the government support older Singaporeans who are unable or unwilling to enroll in CareShield Life should they become significantly disabled in the future? For instance, how can disbursements from the soon-to-be-established Elder Fund be calibrated to support these disabled seniors? And will payouts from Elder Fund be also adjusted according to medical and cost of living inflation? To quote from the GPC's recommendations on CareShield Life, we noted that, and I quote, "A careful balance has to be struck between increasing and expanding benefits so that the program remains relevant and useful, and yet keeping the scheme both affordable and sustainable for the long term. If ElderShield is to be universal with mandatory enrollment, then the GPC believes that the government will have to provide targeted financial assistance to ensure that all Singaporeans will be able to participate in this social security program, which is designed to increase peace of mind in the event of severe disability," unquote. Hence, I would appreciate clarifications from the Ministry as to how it intends to maintain premium affordability for CareShield Life while ensuring that Singaporeans are suitably buffered against rising long-term care costs, particularly when they are only either mildly or moderately disabled and thus requiring financial support. And what are the criteria for granting additional premium support? I note that the Minister just mentioned that the criteria would be the same as for MediShield Life additional premium support, but my question is, should the criteria be the same, given the fact that the operational circumstances for CareShield Life and MediShield Life are fundamentally different? The GPC also supports that supplemental plans from private insurers continue to be offered for CareShield Life, and I'm glad that there's a mechanism in this bill to provide for that, as it was the case for ElderShield. This will certainly grant flexibility and meet the needs of Singaporeans who feel that they would be willing to purchase additional coverage. Now, would the Ministry be able to comment whether private insurers will indeed be prepared to provide such supplements for additional coverage for CareShield Life, and whether Singaporeans will be able to use their MediSave to purchase or to cover such additional coverage? I would also like to ask if the Ministry is aware of any of the private insurers, or whether any of the private insurers is currently planning to introduce a supplement whereby perhaps payouts can be activated at a lower threshold, specifically when the policyholder has 2 instead of 3 affected ADLs. This was a feedback that has come up here and then, that why 3 instead of 2 ADLs? And the GPC actually felt that there could be scope for private insurers to meet these gaps. And if not, what are the reasons that this is not being considered by the private insurers? Finally, I have several clarifications regarding the administration of CareShield Life itself. Now, I'm happy that the Ministry is taking steps to facilitate functional assessments in regard to qualification for payouts. There has been feedback in the past about the claims process for ElderShield, that the pool of disability evaluators was limited, and the process of evaluation and re-evaluation was both onerous and unwieldy. For instance, there was feedback that for claimants, the requirements for re-evaluation could be actually too frequent. So I would appreciate clarifications regarding how the claims process for CareShield has indeed been streamlined, while at the same time, I would also like to know how we can guard against fraudulent claims and ensure that the payouts actually reach their intended targets. The proposed introduction of a national electronic health record system, and of course those recent incidents of data leaks and hacks, notably the hacking of SingHealth's IT system, recently has thrown the issue of data integrity and security into sharp relief. And so I'd like to ask, how will the administrators of CareShield Life safeguard policyholder data that is being collected and also that is being used for the purposes of the scheme? The GPC has acknowledged in our paper that there were concerns regarding the adequacy of payouts related to uncertainties regarding the pace of cost of living increases and also medical inflation. Thus, we had urged that the quantum of payouts be reviewed at fixed intervals and revised according to a formula that takes into account both general consumer and medical inflation. We had further proposed that there be a framework for periodic review of the premiums to ensure that the scheme remains both sustainable and affordable. I think Minister has touched briefly on how this would be done, but perhaps I would like to understand a little bit better as to exactly how and how often does the Ministry intend to review and adjust payouts and premiums. In concluding, I would like to ask the Ministry to what degree information will be released to the public regarding the administration of CareShield Life, and whether the Ministry will be transparent about how the fund is managed and how the premiums are priced and how payouts are disbursed. Now, for instance, in the early years of ElderShield, it was actually found that claims were in fact below what was initially projected, and rebates were, of course, duly given back to policyholders as a result. Now, this should certainly be happy news to policyholders at that time, but it also led to questions about whether the premiums and calculations were in fact overly conservative, and secondarily, whether this could have led to excessive profits gained by the private insurers who were then underwriting the scheme. I look forward to the clarifications from the Minister, and I support the bill. Thank you.